Welcome to Tales of Bedlam. I'm your host, Micah.
I'm Batman.
You've used that one before.
I've used Bubba several times, too.
That's my co-host. He's
Batman.
He's a treasure. We have a very special episode for you today, because today we get to read a story from a modern, accomplished writer who lives in the UK.
Oh, this is exciting.
Has contacted us and has allowed us to read a couple of her fairy tales.
Excellent.
Her name is Amelia Brown. She started writing officially as a humor columnist for her university's newspaper. In September of 2016, she won an honorable mention in the Writers of the Future contest for her short story, A Womb at the Edge of Space. She will be published in the 81 Words anthology sometime in the near future. And she is the author behind the blog Fairy Stories and Other Tales, which we will have a link to in the show notes on this podcast and in the show notes on our website at talesofbedlam.com. We'll also put a link on the home page, so if you'd like to get a direct link to check her out and her many excellent stories,
Do it.
you'll be able to. Don't forget to subscribe to her also. Recently featured in the Warren Stories selection of Dead Rabbit's books. I want to read some Dead Rabbit books.
Oh, yeah. We followed the Dead Rabbits on our Twitter.
Did we?
I did, yeah.
What
I
is that
forgot.
about? That's interesting.
It's
Dead Rabbits
It's a
books?
writers group. It's very interesting. We roll through our Twitter sometimes and check out what they tweet.
I'm too busy.
I know, Micah
twisting
never does
knobs.
that, but I see the Dead Rabbits posts, and it's very interesting. It's a bunch of, I think they're based in New York, and it's just a writers group, and they're always tossing around ideas and posting different stuff about who's writing what, and yeah, it's good. I like it.
Amelia has just semi-retired at great risk and far too young of an age from academic life in Cambridge, UK, to write in the quantity her heart desires.
Excellent. It's never too young. You're never too young to retire, Amelia. Do it. Do it. Write some more stories.
The story of Amelia Brown's that we are reading today is The Friendly Ogre.
Oh, we love ogres.
Dustin,
All
take
right.
it away.
I can start this one out. A boy passed a flat, smooth stone to another, his compatriot, in the crime of disturbing a pristinely calm surface of lake water that lay on the edge of a thick wood.
It's perfect, exclaimed the other, taking the stone, feeling the smoothness between his fingers. He worked the stone into his hand until it sat just right, and then whipped it out again from him.
As it danced across the water, they counted 6 small dents in the water, sending rings of ripples. Well done, Pen, said the first boy, marveling at his friend's great feat.
Jolly good stone, brushed off Pen,
Nice.
but his face held a delighted grin as both boys bent to search for another perfect stone.
Excellent.
It was only a matter of seconds, however, before they both stood up, ramrod straight. For all at once a sound came echoing out of the wood, loud enough to send echoes beaming across the lake.
Whoa.
"John," said Pen hesitantly to the other boy.
Yes? Asked John with an uncharacteristically soft voice as he peered into the trees.
"No one lives in the forest, right?"
Not that I've ever heard, said John. As far as he knew, the forest had been empty for years and had no intention of changing. But his momentary apprehension proved short-lived, for unknown noises in the forest meant only one thing, and that thing was adventure. Ooh, we love adventure. His feet practically danced at the thought of it, as he moved out of pure instinct toward the wood. Well, come on then, he said to Pen, as he headed for the trees. It was only natural that Pen followed him. Oh, a follower.
Boys will be boys.
Well, there they go.
The boys pressed into the forest, walking atop the mossy forest floor, and winding their way through thickly growing trees and shrubs. They hadn't been in the wood long before they heard the noise again, and this time it was much closer.
Why are they going closer to this noise that was causing ripples in the lake? Whew.
John, I think I see something. Penn whispered very quietly, looking carefully to his right.
John stepped lightly to Penn's side and looked hard. I see it too, he whispered, back just as quietly. As they realized what it was they saw, they stood stunned, for what they saw was an enormous ogre wielding an enormous axe, striking an enormous tree.
That's
3
enormouses.
There were some enormous things happening.
It was the final stroke.
Nice.
For the tree fell with a loud thump as it bounced slightly against the mossy earth and bounced off several smaller trees that it managed not to take down with it, until it finally settled at the ogre's feet. As one, the boys began to step away slowly, step by trembling step.
Good call. Good call, boys. Get out of there.
I think I would too.
I know what ogres do. They cook people. Put them in pots.
Ogres have an enormous appetite.
Enormous. But then the ogre did something odd and unexpected. He, for it had to be a he, given the voluminous and brushy quality of hair on his face, took out a handkerchief. What? Now wait. He did an odd thing? He took out a handkerchief?
Well, how many ogres do you know who have handkerchiefs?
Well, I don't know very many ogres, but true. True that. Penn and John stood in silence as the ogre wiped the sweat off his green-tinged brow, and then sat down on the fallen tree's enormous stump. Reaching into his vest, which revealed more bushy hair, that was a hairy ogre, and did nothing to hide his bulging green-tinged muscles that lay beneath it, the ogre must have found an inside pocket, for he pulled out a pipe.
I wonder if there was some reminiscence of the author's maybe grandfather, because this so reminds me of my grandpa working out in the garden. He always had the handkerchief, pulled it out to wipe his head.
And he was huge and green and hairy?
Yes, my grandpa was very huge and hairy. Maybe not so green, but he was big and hairy.
Interesting.
It seemed like she wrote that with a little bit of...
She kind of knew the person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In no time at all, smoke curled out of the pipe's bowl and blew out the ogre's mouth, while the pungent aroma began to fill the boys' noses. I like
pipe smoke?
Yes.
Me too.
So relaxed did the overlook. So relaxed did Korea look.
What?
So relaxed did the ogre look that Penn and John were taken by surprise when the ogre suddenly said,
I see you.
Ruh-roh. It was said politely enough, but it rumbled through the sparse brush that was supposed to be hiding the boys and caused them to jump, no doubt. And then they froze, both thinking that perhaps the ogre meant that he saw someone else.
They were hoping.
Yeah.
You two, through the trees there.
The ogre gestured right at them.
Come and have a chat.
Me? Me? Me?
No, I'm kind of bony and scraggly, and you don't want to eat me.
He wants to talk to you, John.
Yeah, right. He's the fat one. That sealed it. The ogre did not see someone else. As though they could speak mind to mind, Penn and John knew they were having similar thoughts. On the one hand, there was the, oh my goodness, and he's seen us, and he's going to eat us, and we're doomed. Well, that's what's going through my head, I'll tell you right now. But on the other hand, well, a chat, that doesn't sound so bad.
No.
And it would be rather thrilling to talk to a real ogre, and he really seems like a decent chap. What with the pipe and all. Naturally, the second hand outweighed the first. The two boys pushed aside the brush as they did their fears and doubts, that is to say, tentatively, and stood before the ogre. Oh, man.
Looking up into... Oh, sorry. That's you.
Wow.
So sorry. I felt like I should be reading. You'd read for a while.
Looking up into his gnarled face that had a nose like a pig's snout, ears that stuck out a foot on either side.
That's enormous.
Them some big ears, feller. And eyebrows that looked just plain deadly. Ooh. John said, "What do you want with us?"
What big ears you have.
What big teeth and deadly eyebrows. It was better to get it all out in the open, John thought.
Penn grimaced, but only very slightly. Penn was rather sensitive to rude questions. But then again, under the circumstances, it was a very legitimate question.
I'm with you, Penn.
Their apprehension lessened slightly when the ogre gave a small chuckle. For despite his ugly exterior, his laugh was warm and kindly.
"Why, just what I said, little lad,"
said the ogre, his voice so deep the ground shook ever so slightly beneath their feet.
It was good enough for John. He opened his mouth to start talking, but found he didn't know what to say. Penn could see his friend had hit a wall.
"What do you want to chat about?" said Penn, digging John out of the hole.
The ogre appeared to give it a moment's serious thought. Before putting an elbow on his knee and bending closer.
"Why, anything you want,"
said the ogre.
Penn and John couldn't help but think that the ogre really was a most amiable fellow, asking them to talk about whatever they wanted. And the ogre's generosity could not be passed by. "I can sling a rock 20 meters, John said, paving the way.
"I can skip a rock in 10 times, said Penn. "Sometimes," he added, just in case the ogre tested him.
"Impressive,"
said the ogre.
"I can pick up this whole tree and chuck it into the lake,"
he said, joining in the list of feats.
"That's a feat." "No way," said John.
"What do you mean that's feat?"
"Chucking a tree into a lake?"
"Oh, that is a feat."
"That's a feat."
"Wow," said Penn at the exact same moment.
"Want to see?"
asked the ogre with a twinkle in his yellow eye.
Man, this is one ugly ogre.
Do you think he only has one eye?
I don't know. Ugh.
It says yellow eye.
Huge and green and hairy and has yellow eye.
But he also has
where
a handkerchief and nice and tobacco.
All right.
Yeah.
That would make him less ugly.
He's a civilized ogre.
Civilized ugly ogre.
"Rather," exclaimed Penn, his eyes as round as saucers.
As John's mouth hung open before, he said, "Yes, please." With great enthusiasm, John and Penn followed their new friend down to the lake. For the ogre, indeed, could pick up the whole tree, and the splash it made when he tossed it in was unlike any other splashing the boys had ever seen. The adventure marked the beginning of a great friendship that brought Penn and John back to the wood day after day, until one day they looked all around, and the ogre had disappeared. Oh, was this a sad story? But that was all right, for the boys weren't boys any longer, and with the memory of the best adventures, the boys left it at that, each with a handful of stories in his pocket. Oh, it had a good ending, and they lived happily ever after. It was a friendship story.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of like Christopher Robin as he grew up, or Peter Pan. You know, like
right.
Wendy with Peter Pan, as they grow up, they
forget
they leave those stories.
The fairy tales of their youth.
Yeah, they're still fond memories, but they don't relive them any longer. That's why the ogre, disappeared.
Right. And then one day they were growing up.
And they didn't need the story anymore, I guess, to
find their adventures.
Yeah, exactly.
Nicely done, Amelia Brown.
Very adventurous of the two to wander into the woods after some scary noises that trembled the lake.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Some brave kids.
That wouldn't have been me. I'd have been...
Well, first of all, you would
peeing
have
my pants.
Never left the house. You wouldn't be at the lake.
True that. I don't go outside very often.
Thank you, Amelia Brown, for this excellent story. And as a bonus for the week, we're going to read another one of her stories right after this. So if you're listening now, don't forget to listen to the bonus.
Oh, bonus. We love a bonus.
Again, I will list links to Amelia Brown's stories, her blog page.
Fairy stories and other tales.
Yes. In the show notes.
Look it up. She's got some great stories.
Yes.
Thank you, Amelia.
Again. Good night. Bye.
Oh, bye.